Greetings, Dr. Jeffrey Scott here, and this is my Market MRI Pro update for Monday, January 5th, 2026. Happy New Year's to everybody. This was not a great evening for the Scott household. I took my boat captain out to dinner, and we met him in between where we both live, about 45 miles away. Pulled away from the restaurant, and my new car had 7 nails in the right rear and 5 in the left rear, and the valet folks denied any knowledge of such thing. But hard to understand how you get both rears and not the fronts. But you know, that's why you can buy a tire policy. Anyways, that's nothing to do with the markets, but just why this is running late. So Jeffrey Scott, marketmripro@gmail.com, my Google Groups top-down trader website, marketmripro.com. As always, these are for educational purposes only. Anything we talk about should be taken in the spirit of education and not investment advice. You are solely responsible for any investment decisions you make. I may own or intend to buy or sell any stock I mentioned. Trading stocks and options should be considered risky. You should always consult with your financial advisor before making trades. I have tools for multiple platforms, but am an independent trader. My Google group is called Top Down Trader. How do I join? Go to Google Groups, click All Groups, find the group you want to join, Top Down Trader, click Join, let us know how to contact you, and you can control whether you're in or out. You don't need my permission to leave. And that way, if you feel like you're being spammed or anything like that, you have the right and opportunity to leave. Tuesday, not a lot. We got a PMI. It's a final, which means it's already been presented, I assume. We had ISM and auto sales today. It gets busier. Wednesday, we'll have employment and ISM job openings on both Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Friday. We have Fed speakers, so interesting to see what they have to say. I think we're hearing more and more that they think that they're in a good place right now. So I'm not one that's counting on a cut in January. And if we get it, that may be good. It might scare people as well. So busier on Friday with the monthly or the U.S. employment report for the month, what my good friend John Person refers to as the monthly unemployment report. On the earnings dates, you can see we've got a few things this week starting tomorrow. It's next week where the earnings season starts in earnest. As it says in the lower right-hand corner, it is a judgment call to hold stocks over earnings dates. It's bad judgment to not know when your stock's earnings date is scheduled. For more information, marketmripro@gmail.com is my email. Market MRI Pro customers who are having any issues coding at marketmripro.com, and Top Down Trader Google Group. I'm aware that there's now become a divergence between the version I'm using and the version you're using. We found out why. The Microsoft Store was blocking the releases because of a, to say technical issue would be an overstatement. We made a slight change, and you should see version 20, I think, coming today or tomorrow. So you'll be updated, and it was more about how many times our disclaimer popped up than anything else, and we had to change that to meet their requirements. Hope to see you in Florida in late in the year, October, November. And as soon as the folks in Orange County commit one way or another about the meeting in the first half, I'll let you know. And let's take a look at the markets. I mean, the most remarkable thing to me was, well, first of all, the diamonds set an all-time closing high and an all-time high today. And if you look at the daily charts, you can see we went back to a buy on the spiders, the diamonds, and the Russell. So the Qs, which had been the laggard, had a pretty strong session. We'll take a look at that right now. If I go into the daily briefings, I haven't preloaded everything. I just got back from dealing with my car. Just what you want to do after a fancy dinner. If it was I know my portfolio was happy today. Although it was interesting, it actually went lower for a while and then boom, really nice close. So Bitcoin was up in the almost 5%. So Bitcoin is starting to recover, and that's impacting on a lot of the Bitcoin related stocks, blockchain, coin, etc. Russell was up 1.59, Diamonds 1.27, Q's 0.79, and Spiders 0.67. A really good day in the market. Volatility actually was up 1% and finished at the high of the session, which is kind of interesting on a strong day, and the dollar was down a bit. If we look at new highs minus new lows, the trend that we saw yesterday continues where we're getting a lot more new highs coming up. New lows are dropping, and thus the 52-week new high minus new lows is very positive on the NYSE and getting more positive each day on the NASDAQ. That's bullish. Over here, we can see it's 72% of the S&P 1500. We're up 65% of the NASDAQ and 70% of the NYSE. Of course, more sectors and industry groups were up as well. That's a very bullish posture. When we look at one-day change on the S&P 500 ETFs, so it's important, this is just the big 500 stocks, energy, financials, discretionary, and industrials and materials were all 1 or higher, and the downside was on utilities and staples and real estate. Technology was positive, but just 0.22%. But the ones that are at the bottom, those are defensive. That's what you want to see if you're bullish, especially if you're long growth. If we look at the themes, we can see uranium, blockchain, copper, silver, fintech, metals and mining. These are all up considerably, all up over 3%, as was gold miners, robots, China internet, again, e-commerce, aerospace, which we talked about last night, doing very well. Data centers were up another 1.21. Several of the stocks that I mentioned last night when I talked about aerospace and defense, as well as data centers were very positive today. We already looked at the daily signals, which are improved. 3 out of 4 are long. And if we look at the weekly, they're going to all be in good shape, as you could see. Right up at the top of the range on the spiders and just off all-time highs. Still have a ways to go on the Qs and the Russell. And the diamond set an all-time closing high today, as I've already mentioned. If I look at the U.S. index ETFs, again, a super duper strong day today. You could see this line represented that high, that retest here, the false breakout, and we're up to this line today. We're certainly at a place where you might expect resistance, but a breakthrough here would be extremely bullish, and I still think seasonality is our friend here. So cautiously optimistic on the spider. On the Qs, well, the Qs are in a nice wedge, and they got to break above it. And right now they're getting to the place where it's kind of tight. So they're bouncing from bottom to top to bottom. Does that mean we test the top tomorrow? Seasonality is strong, and even if we break out, we're still going to have to deal with the prior all-time highs. Is this bullish looking? It's a little bit more mixed in my mind than the spiders. The diamonds, how could all-time highs not be bullish? Setting all-time closing highs, all-time intraday highs today on big volume. Look at that breakout momentum from a squeeze. I'd buy it if it was a stock. Oh, I can buy it. It's called an ETF. And if I look at the Russell broke out of this trend line, which I drew last night. Seasonality is fine. Again, these things look like they want to go higher. And I'll have to do the math, but if you think about the Santa rally is the last 5 days of the prior year plus the first 2 days. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. At least on the Russell, we're right about where we were after, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the prior close here, so we are higher than we were before the Santa rally period. So we didn't have much of a rally, but I think we're higher. Let's go look at the spiders. I was thinking about that earlier today. Let's see, Monday, Friday, and then, well, actually we have one more day. So last 5 days, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we are just under where we were. So it looks like we're probably a little lower on the closes than we were before the Santa rally period. But a strong day tomorrow, if we get one, could actually put us positive for the last 5 and first 2 days. Not that that means anything, just of interest to me. If I look at the Russell, we looked at this volatility. That's kind of surprising to me that the VIX was higher today. So let's just take a look. Seasonality here is soft. It gets higher as we get into late January and February. We ran into the 17-day in reverse. We were up a little bit, 2.69% on the VIX futures. There's a lot of resistance overhead, but that's something to keep an eye on, and that would go against the theme of a rallying U.S. stock market. You look at the dollar futures, it tried to go higher, and I'm sure part of it was a flight to safety early on because of the Venezuela affair. My boat captain spent a lot of time in the military and special forces, and um, apparently he was trained to interdict the drug boats like they're doing right now. And he said from the people he spoke with that this was purely a judicial issue and not a military incursion. And maybe that's why the responses elsewhere are muted. Who knows? I surely don't know anything about that. I'm just relaying what I heard. But by the end of the day, the dollar was actually down 0.12. Let's go look at the commodities. So, we've been in a major gold and silver run, and gold had a big pop. Again, probably a little bit on Venezuela, although it closed at the highs, up 2.63%. That's pretty impressive. And you could see silver really does not want to break. So silver is acting like it wants to go higher. So is gold. Surprising. I thought we'd get a bit more of a pullback. Speaking of pullback, oil is struggling to get back into this. Long term, we probably get more supply because of Venezuela, but based upon what I'm hearing, it's going to take quite a long time for them to start producing enough to be meaningful. So oil kind of is just doing nothing. Natural gas, speaking of a nothing burger, is broken down again and is trading near the lows. It was down 3.5% today. When you see a candle like this, a big gap closing at the bottom, that's a shooting star. And I would call this a perfect evening star formation, which is typically the end of a run. And it was. 10-year down a bit, 0.72. That's good to see. And 30-year. So you look at all the things I've showed you, there's improvement in the market. Looks to me like the markets want to go higher. That VIX is something to at least look at and watch for. Futures as of about 11 p.m. are minimally positive, and gold's up another 24 bucks. Bitcoin's down 330. If we go into the buckets, you'll see a significant shift to the right as the market strengthened and they move back higher within their Bollinger Bands, the individual stocks, but only 8% above there, 6 here, 4 here, and 8%. So we are not overbought yet by any means. Market breadth, look at the NYSE. That don't look like a bear market to me. That's a wow, in my opinion. A wow. Super strong day in the NYSE. The NASDAQ, not so much. This is the composite. Remember, the Qs are stuck in a tight trading range, and I think the NASDAQ composite is very similarly challenged. Volume today, I guess that's the volume today, looks to be pretty good. You could see we're starting to see on both a pickup in stocks above their moving averages. That's great. We're by no means extended. New high, new lows, we know they're positive. AD lines, very positive. And up, down volume are positive and no new signals down here on the signal line. So I'd say market breadth looks good. If I look at the 13-week new high, new lows, I looked at it earlier today, it wasn't all we got. 0.74, 0.77, 0.65, and 0.40. And you could see the massive improvement here across the boards with this big rally. Not a buy signal, not a sell signal, probably neutral right now. Just a very, very strong day today in the US markets. If I look at the non-ratio timing model, we could see Bitcoin, which we saw a positive signal on Friday, had a big move today. Still negative on technology, living though right on the 30-period WMA. Discretionary looked okay today, but still in a sell signal. Communication strong. Industrials and materials. Here's industrials, and this is probably materials have been strong. Energy is getting stronger as are financials. This entire middle row here looks great. Real estate is weak. Utilities are weak. Staples are weak. And healthcare is holding on, although biotech had another rough day today. I like to look at some of the main stocks every day. One, because my long-term positions have some of these, and I'm looking at trying to find when to buy some of the others. So let's quickly look at these. It's a different layout than the JAS layout and the index layout, but it applies the timing model to stocks. So Amazon had a super strong day. So after a pullback on Friday, and this was the fake out day where it traded really high and closed really low, but off the bottom, positive session today. I'm glad I still own some. We'll see what I feel like tomorrow. Apple, nah. It's been living below the moving averages in a sell signal. It actually broke down today. Very disappointing. Google has been one of the strongest. It won't turn on the daily chart to a buy until the bongo changes. It's probably close, but that one looks buyable to me. Meta had a nice recovery day, but it still sold off quite a bit. Netflix, it's stuck in arbitrage hell, meaning it's still fighting for Warner Brothers Discovery and Paramount still around, which is going to pressure the stock and make it, in my opinion, not actionable or tradable for the seasonality of Q1, which is so strong. It may do fine, but I'm not putting my money at work right now. Tesla had a nice bounce today, up significantly. See if I get the number. Oh, I don't have it in this one, but still below the moving averages. NVIDIA, we'll see what it does tomorrow. The CEO spoke tonight or like this afternoon at CES, which is a big technology meeting once a year in Vegas. I think there's another one in the middle of the year in Chicago. And right now it's trading up from the close about 60 cents, which is really nothing. So I guess I would say NVIDIA is holding steady. Hasn't broken down, just isn't doing anything. I think people want to see that they're going to not only beat their expectations, but beat it enough to meet the whispers. Microsoft, penalty box still. And Labu, as I said, biotech had another weak day. I cut most of my position free here. It's had a great run. I still think it goes higher. I kept a little bit just in case, but LABU is weak. We talked about pharma being different in that it's probably not going to have on their existing drugs as much price controls as biotech, who has new drugs coming, are likely to see. And that probably will suppress some M&A activity and potentially keep the ultimate prices down on takeouts because they're going to be looking at discounted cash flow models based upon sales. And if your drug costs are going to be limited because of the government, it's going to limit what those sales are. So pharma holding up better than biotech. Data centers, wow, what a great day. You know, it actually opened up, traded lower, and then traded just off the highs of the day, kind of giving a hammer there. Is that a hanging man and a bearish thing? I guess it could be. I just get the feeling watching some of the ticker action that data centers are going to go higher. That's why I spoke about it last night. And then another one to look at, we looked at was defense, ITA, and even a better day than data centers. So I think looking at this model at the various sectors makes sense. So I'm going to build an entire grid over the next couple of days of my favorite themes just to watch them. From a top-down perspective, let's go to the JAS layout. And let's go into the top-down view, and everything was up. The biggest performance today, financials, industrials, and basic materials. Now you're probably thinking, but Jeff, that looks very different than you showed us before with the S&P. And the answer is, of course it does. I'm looking at here not 500 stocks. I should be looking at 3,800. And when I look, that means a much broader perspective of the market. And with those three sectors alone, we have 1,248 stocks, or 49. Now let's just take the top 10 industries in those three sectors. And I'm going to add technology as well. And so let's see what we got. Percent change, media, IT, auto parts, investment banking, industrial, silver, copper, precious metals, trucking, asset management. Those are the top 10 industry groups. Pause 1 second. All right, so when I take those top 10, I'm down to 174, and let's go ahead and let's limit for $5 and 500,000 shares. Hit OK, and let's look by number of positive impulses, and let's go down the list. TGB, a miner. What do they mine? Highlight that. Copper, molybdenum, gold, niobium, silver. All right. Well, rare earth metals and the various metals complex are working well. This thing looks great. It's a cheap stock. Does it pay a dividend? Let's see. No dividend. And it looks like it's turning positive in earnings. Earnings are out February 18th. All right. LDOS, technology, defense, intelligence, civil, and health markets. Looking for 252 versus 237. Not a lot of growth. Small dividend. Has decent surprises over time on both the earnings and revenue. I mean, from a pattern wise, I like it. It's had a pullback, took out the 50, took out the trend line. So coming out of a squeeze with momentum, breakout, and volume, good relative strength in OBV, good seasonality. Looks interesting. GTX, auto parts, if I remember correctly. Big move up. Let's see if that was on earnings. That was about, what was the date? October 23rd. Oh, one of my friend's birthdays. And earnings were on the 23rd. Big surprise, looking at 36 cents. Not so good versus 47. Not that exciting. Do like the chart pattern. Valet, another miner, getting ready to break out after a pullback. I don't know if that counts as a cup and a handle. Probably not. Good seasonality. UAMY, don't know this one. Oh, another miner. Gold, silver, copper, they're all strong. TFII Industrials. All right, well, that's a couple of things that look good. Another thing you could do is, if you believe me or not believe me, agree about data centers and defense, I created a list of both. So here's a stock. Wow. Look at this. Everything except HXL was positive in the defense and space list, at least everything above 5 and 500,000. How wild is that? And let's just look at the curve. Oh, it's not going to give me a curve tonight. I don't know why it's not doing that. All right, well, never mind. What was the big move today, percentage-wise? Our cat technology company has a checkered past with a lot of lawyers involved, but breaking out above the 50. AVAV, I think they might be in the drone business, robots, satellites, aircrafts. Yep. KTOS, another defense. Oof, beautiful move here. Remains a super strong group. The other group probably won't be as strong, but is the data centers. And let's take a look at them. Think about Oklo. I took a position this early today. It had a nice move, and I don't like buying things below the 50, but I rode this one last year, and I figured I'd give it another try. Small starter position, relative strength at OBV picking up. I thought this one looked good. Another one that I went into today, also playing things that I've been in before, which should be here, is one of these miners turned data center power companies. Where did IREN? And that's IREN. I think we looked at this last night as well. Just looks like these data centers are coming alive. So you might want to go look at some of those stocks. The aerospace and defense really looks impressive. The other thing that I like to do is just to go to the JAS layout, the impulse layout, and drop down my A pluses. Now I did this before the close and I almost fell out of my seat. I don't ever remember seeing this many stocks make the A plus. So could this be a false move that we're seeing in the markets right now? It could be, but I kind of think there's something going on here, and something going on to the positive. So take a look yourself at your program, GDOS, or Goose rather, which is, I guess it's cold up north, and maybe that's driving interest in them. The banks are on fire. Goldman Sachs, all-time highs. I own Bank of America. JP Morgan was off the walls today as well. Some of the energy services companies started doing well today. Halliburton, Schlumberger, although I don't know if they're called Schlumberger anymore. There's Halliburton, big gap up. SLB, I think they call it now. I'll still call it Schlumberger. Big gap up as well. When you see stocks like Schlumberger and Halliburton have moves like that. So there's a lot to like right now. Here's that LEU we talked about last night, just like IREN and Oklo breaking out today. This thing ran into the 400s with the last from less than 200 when we first spied it up here months ago. So lots to like. I could go through all these tonight, but you turned it off before I got there. So let me just leave it by saying the markets feel surprisingly bullish here. Be careful because things can reverse very quickly as well. But right now, I like what I'm seeing. I'm still long, and I deployed some cash today. Take care, everybody.